Hello chess friends, and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel, and welcome to my chess games. So in this series I'm going to show you my games that I have played. I think they can be sometimes very instructive, because then I can show you some of my ideas, some of my principles in chess games. So in this video I'm going to show you a blitz game. Although it's a blitz game, I think it's very instructive, because in this game I didn't make blunders or mistakes. So as I mentioned in my previous videos, I'm gonna publish only videos of my games in which I played, I think, very good. And today I wanted to show you a game. It was played against a 2550 rated player, so it was basically a grandmaster level, and I was really happy because of this game, because I played a really nice attacking game, and with some sacrifices, with some pawn breakthroughs, and many of these beautiful elements of the chess game. So let's see the game. Here in the beginning I play the move d4. I'm basically a d4 player. I only sometimes choose a different line with e4, c4, or maybe knight on f3, but here I decided to go d4. My opponent goes knight on f6, and here I most often play the move knight on f3, because this knight on f3, for me, it means it's sort of a delaying move. I'm waiting my opponent to show his cards, to show in which variation he's gonna go. If he's gonna play g6 or d6, e6, so Nimzo Indian, King's Indian, or maybe the bird's defense, Philidor defense, then I know what to do, and then I try to apply one of my prepared systems against this opening. So here d5, c4. We have now the Queen's Gambit, and here c6, the Queen's Gambit declined the Slav defense. So knight on c3 was played, and here maybe the best way for those who are playing the Slav defense is to go d takes c4. Then it goes into this line with a4, maybe bishop on f5, and then e3. The position is much more simplified. Although white has the pawn-centric control, I think black has a good counterplay here with e6, and then bishop on b4. It's perfectly fine. Then this bishop on b4 can be supported with the move a5, because the bishop is basically unchallengeable, because I have played maybe here already the move a4, but this is now different game, different line, different opening. In the continuation, my opponent played the move e6, building sort of a fortress here on like squares, building really a great wall. And in my preparations, I like to play here the move c takes d5. After e takes d5, here now we have queen on c2, and queen on c2 prevents some bishop on f5 ideas, because in this Slav setups, it's always a little bit hard to develop this light square bishop. If you try bishop on g4, it can be met with knight on e5. Bishop on e6 can be met with knight on g5. So there are lines in this particular moves, but here my opponent goes g6, and this g6 is good preparation. It's the idea is here to play bishop on f5 anyway, because then the queen has to move. And here I played bishop on g5. And now, if you immediately play the move bishop on f5, then it gets really dangerous, because there are now some tactical possibilities here for white. Here the best move is queen on b3, and if you try here bishop on b7, then of course queen takes on b7, and black will lose decisive material. If you try to get back here with the bishop on c8, then e4 is very dangerous for black, because if you take, of course you cannot take with the knight because of the pin by the bishop. Then knight on e5 is very dangerous after queen on e7, preventing here this very annoying check on f7. Then we have bishop on c4, and if you try bishop on e6, then bishop takes on e6, f takes e6, and now bishop takes on f6, very powerful. Queen takes on f6, and now queen on b7, deflecting. Here the queen is deflected from the defense of this b7, and here it's basically game over for black. So I see dangerous stuff already after bishop on g5. That's why here bishop on g7 has to be played, and now I played simply bishop e3. Now comes bishop on f5, and here queen on b3 doesn't work so much, because we can play now simply queen on c7 defending, and the problem is now that the knight is protected. In this previous line the knight wasn't protected, so that's why here bishop on d3, that bishop on d3 was played, queen takes on d3, and now castling by my opponent. I simply also castled, and now knight on d7, and it seems that the position is very good for black. The position is simplified. Black's idea is to go rook on e8, then knight on e4, of course getting the queen first out of the spin, and then cement the knight on e4. That will be a very nice outpost, and that's why here knight on d7 prevents also some my outposts, although I can play knight on e5 immediately. My opponent cannot take this knight. If I play here knight on e5, then of course the spin would be very annoying to handle here for black, but it can be met. This knight on e5 can be met simply by rook on e8, and then I have to play the move f4, and I simply don't like this setup, because then this e3 would be always a weakness. So that's why I choose after knight from b to d7 to go into this minority attack, and this minority attack in the in this Slav setups is a very common idea. I'll show you what here. I just want you to pay good attention of this pawn structure here on the queen side. We have a 3-on-4 situation from white's perspective, and here in this in the continuation, these things can happen. If we play something like b4 and b5, then we are trying really to weaken here the pawn structure on the king side, and if black tries here maybe something like a6, then we can simply go b5 after trades of pawns. Okay, we have lost some pawns, but here this pawns would be vulnerable to our attacks through the b file. So this minority attacks idea on the queen side is the idea to create some weaknesses on the queen side, and if here the opponent doesn't react, then of course after maybe something like let's move something here, then we have b takes a6 and b takes a6, then this pawn would be again a weakness, and again we could really attack this pawn, and maybe go into a favorable endgame with one pawn up. So as I said, this minority attack, it here on the queen side, it basically only works when you have still pieces on the board. So you have to have still queens, rooks, knights, bishops on the board in order to keep this minority attack working, because then if you maybe lose some pawns, then you want to have attacking pieces that can attack this weaknesses, this weak pawns. So here after b4, my opponent played here the move b5, preventing b5 for myself, but the important thing is that he has lost now a very firm pawn structure. Now this c6 pawn is very weak, and that's why I played immediately a4. Continuing with my minority attack, here we have a6, and now I have the move a5, and this is now very important, because if you see this pawn structure on the queen side, now it's this setup. You see now these three pawns are battling very well against four pawns of black here. So it means that black cannot push pawns. Black cannot push the pawn here on c5. It means he will lose the pawn. So my three pawns are battling very well against these four pawns. On the other hand, I have here a 5 against 4 situation here of these pawns. So it means if I could somehow maybe here create a pass pawn here on the king side, then I would have a very nice continuation, because then I would have a decisive winning chances, because then these pawns would be paralyzed by my three pawns, and my extra pawn would mean something in the endgame. So that's why my common idea here is to go into a favorable endgame after I blocked out the pawn structure here with the move a5, and in the continuation my opponent played the move rook on e8. Of course, as I mentioned, to prepare knight on e4, but it's not possible immediately. You have to get the queen out of this mess, out of this out of the spin by the bishop. Rook on c1 was played, and now rook on e6. Probably the idea is to go here rook queen on e8 and then really cement the knight on e4. This would be a very good position for black, and this rook on e6 is also protecting here this weakness of c6. But here I played simply knight on e2, we have rook on c8, and now knight on f4, kicking away the bishop, the rook from e6, and now rook on e8, and now rook on c2. I simply prepared now to double the rooks on the c file, because the c6 weakness is the main weakness in black's position. And here my opponent tried the move h6. You see, I was keeping a little bit the tension here on with the spin. I waited my opponent to play the move h6. I didn't play bishop takes on f6 immediately. I simply waited here this move. This move will be a decisive weakness now in black's position, because black has after h6, black has weakened much further the queen side, the king here after castling. And that's why here after h6 I simply took. If you take with the bishop, then rook on c1 is dangerous. You cannot protect anymore this c6 pawn. It's you have to play something like knight on b8, which is very annoying. So we have also possibilities to sacrifice the knight on g6 with queen on g6. So this would be very annoying now for black. If you take with the queen, the same idea again, rook on c1, and now maybe queen on d6 can be played, but now queen on b3, and again the c6 weakness remains. Still, we have, I think, a better position here from white's perspective, because the queen is only used as a defensive piece against our attack here on the c file. So that's why here knight takes on f6 was played, and now I finally got my idea through, because now I have an outpost of this knight on e5, because now the knight is not on d7 anymore. It also covered here this very important diagonal for the bishop after knight on f6. After knight on e5, here queen on d6 was played, and now I simply sacrificed the knight on g6. I sensed a little bit that this pawn structure on the king side is very weak. Here after f takes g6, queen takes on g6, and here my opponent tried knight on e4 to trade off the queens. I simply played queen on f7 with a check, king on h8, and here you can pause and try to find the best move here. It's a very breaking move. It really breaks the position of blacks here, and it's the move rook takes on c6. If you take rook takes on c6, then queen on e8 first. After king on h7, we can simply take knight takes on c6, and this pawn is protected. We are up the exchange. We have many pawns. We have many extra pawns, so of course this is completely winning for white. If you try something like bishop on e5 in this position to trade off this knight, which is the defender of the c6, then we can simply take rook takes on d6, bishop takes on d6, and now f3. Here, if your opponent moves knight on d2, then we have queen on f6 with a check. You have to move, and here again white has a completely winning position, because we have really too many pawns that can be used to promote to another queen, and here it will be resignable here for black. So after rook on c6, my opponent tried to move queen on b4, and you can pause the video again and try to find the best move. It's mate in 2. It's a very nice attack here, and it's the move rook takes on h6. Of course, here the bishop has to take, and now knight on g6, but with a very nice checkmate. This queen and the knight are working very well combined, and this was again game over for my opponent. So as I mentioned, the key move here was the knight on e5, cementing here this very nice outpost of this knight. The c6 weakness was really too much to handle for my opponent. He had also a weak pawn structure here when he moved here the move h6, and here, as I mentioned, this minority attack, this 3-on-4 situation on the queen side led into this position in which I had created many weaknesses in my opponent's position, but that was only possible because I played very actively in the beginning and tried this very fast minority attack. Okay, I was really happy to win a game against a 2500 rated player, because it's my goal to get there still, and I'm really trying hard to be better in chess. We'll see what will happen in the continuation of my career of my chess games. I don't have so much time to go on tournaments, but it's really a satisfaction to see that I can win games against these top rated players, and I'm going to continue, and I'm going to continue, of course, to show you some of my games with some other tactical possibilities, some strategical elements of the chess games, and I think these games are also fun to watch. Okay, meanwhile you can watch my other commented chess games from the series, and you can also watch my best chess games of all time if you want to see the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history. And you can also subscribe to my channel if you like this content. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.